Introduce them.
Go.
Sounds good.
All right, so I'm here at the Art Institute, and my job for my ethics class is to interview someone that's in my related field of what I'm trying to get into. I'm here with the famous Ross Bounds. Famous Ross Bounds, yeah, very, very famous. I look up to him because he's actually successful with his artwork, and we're trying to figure out today in ethics. The question was, I forgot what was the homework assignment now.
Your homework assignment, if I remember right, was address or talk about an ethical concern within my industry. Is that
Yeah,
right?
yep.
So,
And he's not my teacher, and he knows my homework. See, great
I'm
teacher.
doing his homework for him.
All right, cool. All right, so yeah.
All right, so an ethical concern that we run into, and I'm in the kind of like the fine artist gallery scene, so I sell my work through a gallery, and I try to get fine art representation and all that. So that's kind of the market I'm in, and a big concern that runs throughout our industry is basically borrowing other people's ideas. How far can you borrow? How much can you take and then still call it your own work? And it's a tough thing in that industry because oftentimes that's actually celebrated as the idea. They call it appropriation. You can appropriate someone else's work as long as you create your own statement about it. And so the debate and the dialogue over it is when is it okay and when is it not? Some good examples I can give you, and off the top of my head I don't remember the name of the photographer, but one artist actually just went into the museum and photographed artist photographs from the 30s. So all she did was take a photograph of a photograph. And she was celebrated for it, which because of the conceptual element to it, but at the same time she was a little bit derided for it, for basically just presenting other people's work as her own.
Did she get in trouble for that?
Well, that's the thing. Her stuff is actually in major museums. She's celebrated for the type of stuff she does. So she did not get in trouble for it.
But it's just shameful.
But it's not necessarily what every artist would say is the right thing to do.
Of course.
So that's where the big dilemma is when is it okay and when is it not okay? In many circles, people think that that's okay, and then in other circles it's not. And another example I can give you is, like, you know who Banksy is and Shepard Fairey?
Yes.
Yeah. Those guys, they pull from a lot of other works, and in fact Banksy is probably the most copied street artist out there right now because of his style. But he's not going to object because he doesn't care. He's someone that's into that kind of scene. And then the examples that I give with Shepard Fairey is the Obama Hope poster.
Oh,
where,
yeah, most common one.
Yeah, he got in trouble because he copied a photograph that was owned by the Associated Press. The photographer who took it didn't care. He was actually kind of flattered that his work was used for it. But the Associated Press actually owns the rights to that image, so they felt that he had stolen their image to use for his own gains. They actually sued him over it, and I believe he lost that lawsuit.
Wow.
So, same thing with his famous one, the Obey. It says, and it's got those
Yeah.
eyes with the star, and it says Obey. That's actually Andre the Giant, the old WWF wrestler from the 80s. That's his eyes, actually. And so he actually pays the estate of Andre the Giant so that he can use those eyes. So, in that point, that's another thing, is when money gets involved, people get a little bit more testy about it. When money's not involved, people are less concerned about it. So.
As for you being one of the artists, is like now, like trying to like make a living out of being an artist, like have you come across this issue for yourself, for your work?
Well, I actually try to consciously stay away from consciously mimicking other styles. And an example I give is one of my favorite artists in the field that I work in. His name is Alex Kanefsky, and he does this very particular kind of stylistic treatment to the paint, where it almost looks like he squeegeed over it afterwards. And because he's popular, a lot of other artists start to do that now. And as soon as I see that, I go, that's a Kanefsky copy or Kanefsky ripoff right there. So I like to try, when I explore ideas and think of new ways to approach my work, because that's what artists should always do, is think about how to approach the work in new and creative ways. oftentimes I'm pulling from other artists that I like. And so Kanefsky, there's certain things that I like that I'll incorporate in my work, but I try to avoid it looking too stylistically like any one of their works. So I might decide that their use of color is a good use, and I will incorporate some of it in there, but I'm not going to copy their color palette.
Right.
So that I don't run into that risk. And I don't know if I would run into any trouble with it per se, but artists tend to be very sensitive, and when you do something that rips off another artist, you tend to hear about it through the community. So,
All right.
when I was in grad school, that was always debated and talked about, because some students would just copy famous artists and get credit for being very good at what they do, but really all they did was copy another artist's work in a sense. So in my personal work, I consciously try to avoid it. I try to have, for a couple of reasons. One is I want to have my own voice when I do my art, so I'm not speaking through someone else's voice. And then two, I don't want to piss off anyone or get them in trouble or get myself in trouble for
It shows, you know, sets aside, well, you know, who the artist is, right? I mean, like just having your own little twist on your own stuff. Right?
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. It's actually important to acknowledge when you're borrowing it, but you want to have your own voice or your own message in your own work. So
Right, yeah.
it's very
Definitely see
true.
that. And how are we doing on time?
It doesn't say time.
It's okay. Has it? Well, let's wrap things up. You've seen artists at our school. Like, do you see some students doing the same thing with the whole? Do they cross the line, or do they?
I think so. Sometimes I see some. Where I see it often is unconscious in the fact that there's a lot of fan art that comes out, and people like a certain, like in our class today, everyone would associate certain character elements to video games or animations that they've seen before, and that's always good. You can pull from that and research from that, but sometimes I think some people will take it and just rehash the same thing again because they really they're a fan of, I don't know, some game.
Yeah. Basically, yeah.
They like they have a certain thing that they like, so they basically draw that instead of incorporating those elements that they like into their own ideas. So I do think that is a risk that happens here from time to time. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate you being here.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm happy to do it for you. So.
Thank you. And